What have I told you? That there are some 450 million people in the world who are suffering at any one time from identifiable mental illness. About 75% of that huge number are people who are suffering in the developing world. Now, the terrible thing, of that large number, something like 90% of people do not access treatment.
For a whole country of 25 billion people, we have about 14 psychiatrists. And that translates to about 1 psychiatrist per 2 million people.
Many people still rely on plant and herbal remedies. They are still very much in a world of superstition.
What we think of as perhaps relatively mild in terms of a condition leads you in the end to being excluded from the society that you love and know.
Every time you approach a project, it's always about investigation.
We wanted to find a story that would both convey the gravity of the problem and also be universal to what is actually experienced by many people. The incidences of mental illness sufferers being locked up in individual isolation is actually quite common.
They removed my clothing and then locked me on the lock.
Francis was diagnosed with a mental condition and locked in a small hut. We knew immediately that virtual reality was the way to go for this.
We knew that we wanted to create empathy, but we also knew that we wanted to do something a little different than everyone else is doing.
Our first attempt, we created these very elaborate CGI worlds. And as we looked around the world, it was missing something for us. It didn't have the heart.
In order to get the best footage to tell Francis's story, we needed to go to where he actually had this experience.
We worked with Francis himself and an NGO supporting him to tell his story through his own voice.
I never knew I was having a mental problem.
Part of what we wanted to do was make you feel like you may never leave the hut.
To sit someone where he sat and live for a few moments what he lived.
Virtual reality is perfect for that.
We're going to create an urgency to treat these illnesses and this epidemic like we would any other epidemic.
Thank you so much for being here. I want to take a moment to talk to you about the power of virtual reality, which is what you're going to see here with the story of Francis.
We made this film to instigate conversations.
It is as though you are walking with Francis along all of this.
I was in Francis's world.
You get to really feel what it's like.
When the door finally opened, I felt a sense of relief because it was so real.
Many people will look at this film and go, it's rather simple in its design, but it's purposefully simple. If any one thing stands out, then the film isn't doing its job. And the work should only be about telling a good story.
People are suffering unnecessarily. If they don't get the help that they need, it's a loss to society. We would transform our world if we invested in mental wellness.